So today we have Aditya Mehendale over here, and he's the national creative director at Schbang. He's created headlines not only with but at Schbang, and today we are going to speak about AI and marketing. Welcome to So What's Next, Aditya. Happy to have you here today.
Pretty stoked myself.
So first I told you we have to start with your famous case studies at Shebang, which is one of H&M and Fevicol. So can you tell me firstly with H&M what was the problem statement and what campaign did you build over there?
Sure. So with H&M, actually, it was a campaign that they had been doing for the last 2-3 years, which was a festive campaign. So every year H&M comes up with a festive collection.
Right.
It's for Diwali, but they don't call it Diwali.
Yeah.
They call it festive, and the campaign name is Brighter Than Ever. Okay. And they came to us with that, and every year, they make a film sort of to release the collection. What we had noticed is that every year they try to take the theme of that year and bring it into what does brighter than ever mean in that year. So during the pandemic, obviously, everyone was stuck in their own spaces and working remotely. So those virtual connections were things that made us brighter than ever, right? So that's the campaign they did
Right.
2 years ago. Then
That's interesting.
last year they did where things started becoming a little bit hybrid.
Yeah.
In 21 when things started becoming a little bit hybrid, they did one which is about how now people finally are get that moment to themselves, but also are finding each other.
Yeah.
And that's their brighter than ever.
Okay.
Right. So now we were like, what's the story of 2022? What's really going on in the world, which we can bring into this. And I felt like more than ever, what people wanted was an escape. Because, if you talk to anyone, they were like, most people, even casually, very conversationally, they were like, did these years actually happen, or was it like a simulation, right? It's
that's very interesting. I just realized that it's been 3 years and 2022 was 3 years ago, dude.
Right.
And everything has just flown by since then.
Exactly.
And when I see 2022, I don't know what it stood for, but it was a lot about mental health.
Yeah.
For me personally, as well, for other people as well.
Right.
So yeah, carry on.
So it's exactly that, right? Where it had become so bizarre, that period of time had become so bizarre that I think most people now, as they were turning to their new reality, they wanted an escape,
Yeah.
So the way we were thinking about how do we engineer this escape in a way that works for the brand but is also kind of very unique. So me and someone else in the team who was my co-writer on this, both of us are absolutely crazy about vintage elevators. Okay?
Vintage elevator.
It's one of those-
What's the thing? What's this thing?
It's one of those very nerdy things to be excited about.
It's that gate thing, na, that you have to.
It's the gate thing.
Yeah.
So she grew up. My co-writer grew up in Calcutta, and I grew up in Bombay.
Yeah.
And both of these cities have very colonial influences.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
You see that in the architecture in the most obvious way.
I think in the thinking as well.
Yes. So a lot of the Art Deco buildings, both in Bombay and in Calcutta, have some of these beautiful elevators that go back to like 100 years. So if you go to most of the Art Deco buildings in Marine Drive, some of their elevators go back to the 1920s, 1930s, stuff like that.
Old buildings.
Yeah. And those elevators, and if you ever get a chance, are gorgeous. Some of them are like straight exported from Milan, so they have these beautiful. Italy was really known for making elevators back then.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so beautiful wooden finishes, a bench, those grills, that we were talking about, that buzz of that fan, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So an elevator, at least an elevator like that, can really transport you to a different
dimension. Yeah.
into a different dimension. So it actually started with that. We were like, what is that portal that can take you somewhere else? And we were like, perhaps it could be an elevator. So the creative device became an elevator.
Okay.
And obviously, every elevator is driven by a liftman, right? who takes you
Somewhere, yeah.
somewhere. So we said, okay, let the lift man become the protagonist of our film. And the lift man is this guy who's driving this fantasy portal to wherever you want to go. So then we were like, okay, but this lift man has to also have a very, very charming personality, right? He's like, we were like, the New York City doorman, if you ever.
Yeah, I was thinking of that same person, you know, like
Yeah.
he's dressed well, everything about him is like very polished and everything.
Exactly.
And he's taking you somewhere. He's like, where do you want to go? And he's not sitting.
Always a smile on his
Yeah,
face.
yeah.
He knows your
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
He knows the little things.
And one minuscule thing is that people here, like, they sit and they, press the buttons. Over there, they don't sit. They just
Right.
stand all the time and then they just press wherever you want to go and you go there.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah.
Exactly. So we said, okay, we need someone like that. And, at that scripting stage itself, we were like, ideally, we should think of a face now only. Because sometimes we do that, sometimes we don't, because you don't want to be too married to a face, because, when it comes to production, you may or may not get it. But we were like, no. Even at this stage, when we take it to the client, we'll take it saying we are imagining this film with this person.
Okay.
And that person was Jim Saab.
Oh.
Yeah. Because he has that, magnetism to him.
Yeah.
And, like you said, that uniform, he'd wear it also well. It would really stand out. So we pitched it keeping him in mind. And the idea was that this guy, so the collection was, cutting across to H&M's core TG, which goes from 18 to 35. Right? So basically, we had to appeal to the college goer, the early jobber, maybe a young couple, so on and so forth, right? And kids, like, because there's H&M kids as well. So we were like, how do we do this in an interesting way? So the idea that we came up with is every time a person enters the elevator and Jim Saab has a quick interaction with them, he almost is able to scan through where they want to go.
Okay.
What is it that not physically but emotionally,
but what they're
mentally,
thinking,
what they're thinking, right? So for the first woman in our film who enters was actually missing home and missing her mom, and she was clearly one of those independent, empowered women who was living by herself in a big city.
Yeah, which is, I think, very relevant right now.
Very relevant right now. So we were like, can this lift just take her straight back home to her mom and into the arms of her mom?
Right.
And because that is her brighter than ever.
Yeah.
Right? For someone else, it's the nostalgia of like college friends or school friends who you've lost touch a little bit with.
Yeah.
And the doorway opens up to them.
Right.
For someone else, it's just freedom to be themselves and allow themselves that thing of being a little crazy and atrangi. So the lift man enables that, and he creates almost like a discotheque in the lift,
Right.
with just the flick of a button. So that was our thing, where we basically the lift man took you wherever you wanted to go mentally, because that's what clothes also make you do, right? The first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is ask yourself, what is it you're feeling, right? Where is it? What do you want to do? And that's what, at least for me, when I look into my wardrobe, I pick up basis what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't do that, but I know a lot of people who do that.
Yeah. So I feel like, that connected to that. And then we kind of brought it back together, saying that, you're brighter than ever is basically wherever you want to go. And wherever you want to go, we have the clothes.
Yeah.
And to take you there. So all of this said without actually saying it. Right?
Got
Because it was just a beautiful visual journey with great music. And yeah, so it was
so someone once told me marketing is three things. One, you instill emotions into people. One is you instill fear, and third is when you instill like information into people where they think like, oh wow, what is this, like it's a masterpiece. So the emotions part, I think, sells the most.
Absolutely.
Right? So that worked with H&M.
Oh yeah, massively. Absolutely.
Yeah, like
because I think so we did some teasers before the film actually came out. So it's kind of interesting how when we first put out a teaser, which was just Jim Saab saying, I'm coming soon to take you to. People lost their shit. They were like, even before the film hit, they were like, what is going on? What is this about?
So can you tell me, like, what is the thing with a brand and ad films? Like, why do they do ad films?
Very interesting question. So I think today, for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
So for a brand like H&M, it's a lot to do with imagery.
Okay.
Right. So with a campaign like this, it was not a pure conversion campaign. Sure, we did interesting things like during the course of the ad, and we were telling a narrative film, but it also had every time a character was wearing something from the collection, you saw the price of that particular product, and it was very subtly and very nicely done.
Yeah.
But there were also QR codes during the movie for you to immediately scan and buy. So as you watch, you buy.
Impulse buying, guys.
Immediate.
Yeah.
So I think those kinds of things we've managed to do. But primarily, it was about building the world of what H&M represents. And I think they do a phenomenal job globally in terms of their global campaigns.
I think the scalability is not talked about enough, but how they have been able to reach the mass and not cater to a brand like a luxury brand that's only to a certain class of people.
Correct.
I think that's what they've done very beautifully.
Correct. So I think in India, they wanted to tell that bit of a localized story also on what the Indian H&M story is, which obviously has to tie into their global ethos. So I think that's a big part of where they are at right now. So obviously at the end of the day, they need to move product, and they'll do that. And I don't think they need much help to do that.
Yeah.
But I think more so, just trying to place a world so that every time you enter an H&M store, you know what you're buying into.
Yeah. The experience.
The experience, the emotions that come with it, all of those kinds of things. I think that's where it's at for a brand like H&M.
You think like AI can do that job? Very honestly. Like 10 years. I'm not talking today. I'm talking 10 years down the line.
Right. I think, so what AI can do is possibly give good starting points and good, so for instance, when we were pitching the film, and the first thing we did is make that mood board and things like that. And today, I mean, if just a year later, in terms of where AI is, if I, put those prompts into Mid-Journey, the mood board that I would have gotten versus the mood board that I went with.
Yeah, that's completely different.
It's at another level.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've touched wood, we sold that film, but selling that film today would have been much easier, because the thing is that this was a extremely high production film, right? In order for you to understand the scale, the grandeur of it, you need to have great visualization power.
So interesting point. My friend told me that if you are bringing Jim Sal or any influencer actor for that matter, AI can't tell you who to bring.
Right.
They can help you with the campaign, and I told you like before we started that it helps with generic stuff. I don't think it will help with a lot of creative stuff. For that, people have to come in eventually. But I don't think 10 years down the line that's going to be the case, because I think if, like, let's say 5 people are needed to think of a creative campaign, in the end, like 2 people will be enough to do that.
Absolutely.
So that way I was thinking. And interesting point, not only about marketing, is that AI actually is helping with an experience of buying as well. Like I told you about the casino and the retail stores thing, where how AI in US 20 years ago, so the casino was Hera's casino, and 20 years ago, I think in 1993, these guys, they used cameras and everything to track people, and there were like heat sensors everywhere in the casino. So when people used to like crowd in the dining area or somewhere, a signal would go out to one of the casino people. They would bring out an offer that in the casino right now, if you play, there's like $100 offer for you or something like that. So people would rush from this point to that point, and that's how they used to create revenue. So AI used to track all of that, human behavior, people, what are they seeing, what are they buying, and all. So that led them to like create a lot of revenue for the company.
Right.
And eventually, I think in 2010, they basically spent $25 million in the renovation of the casino, and they changed the name to Caesars Entertainment. And that casino is known as Caesars Palace right now.
Yeah.
Another case study is where in retail stores, like I won't take the name of the retail stores in US, but 20 years ago, these guys used AI to track again human behavior, what are they seeing, and what are the highest revenue models that a product is selling.
Yeah.
So let's say in India, if you're buying like atta, for example, they will place that in the mid section of an aisle where they know that this thing is going to sell the most and the other products won't sell that much.
Right.
So when they place that atta, before that everything that they placed was impulse buying, and that the products that were placed there for impulse buying were basically products that people used to view a lot. They wouldn't talk about that, but if I'm noticing that product, AI would capture that, and they used to strategically place that product over there. So I think those kind of things humans won't be able to do, and they still aren't able to do. This is not come in India yet, but it's been happening since a long time over there, and nobody knows about all that.
Right. So there's a lot of data collection that happens.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
has been ever since the internet was born. That's happened. Right.
Yeah.
We've, for most of our lives, lived in a cookie world. Now we're going into a cookieless world, but we've lived in a cookie world. But the thing with that is, while you're generating that data, there's still a human being who's sifting through that data, trying to make connection, coordinates, and trying to reach an inference. Today with AI, you don't need that, right? Because you give the model enough data, it'll train itself.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And I think that's where it becomes crazy, because what you're doing initially is setting the parameters. And then the more data you feed it, it's able to make its own conclusions.
It's so scary. Like people I don't know about people, but I don't know how many people think about 8 years or 10 years down the line what's going to happen. So World Economic Forum, they came up with that there's going to be no privacy in 2030, and everything will be in the control of the governments and some certain people.
Right.
They actually came out with that in 2030. Everything's going to be like in the hands of a few people, and everyone knows it, but they don't know how it's going to be done. And I think AI is going to be a huge tool for that. So we as people think that, okay, it's being used for marketing, or it can be used for finance, it can be used to create content or anything, but it's not as good as it sounds. And that's one of the reasons like why even Chat GPT is being very criticized, not for the use cases, but for what it can do to the human race.
100%. But I think this is one of those kinds of debates about like, it can go either way. Right?
Yeah.
Because as you rightly said, just as much as it can be used for in abusive things, you can do really transformative things with it.
True. Tell me about that actually. How are you using AI and marketing?
I think, it's an exciting time because the first thing, not just me or us as a company are doing it, but I think a lot of the marketers in the globe are doing is to help with problem solving, right?
Okay.
So what are the current problem statements that AI can help with? That's the first place to start.
Can you give an example?
So an example, for instance, is, in our advertising world, if you get a celebrity, the biggest problem is that you have fixed number of hours you get with the celebrity.
True.
Right? So most celebrities have contracts with the brand. They'll say, okay, so many days, so many 8 hours today, 10 hours today, whatever. And now within the course of those 8 to 10 hours, clients want to do 250 things.
Yeah.
Okay? They want to shoot an ad film. They want to do a photo shoot. They want to do some reels. They want to do some stories, so on and so forth. Right? But there's only so much time.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing which AI has enabled is a lot of hyper contextualizing with limited period of time.
Okay,
right?
can
So
you explain that?
I'll explain that. So there is this piece of technology called Rephrase AI.
Okay.
So what Rephrase AI essentially does is if you sit in front of a camera and talk to it for 15 minutes. Okay, so there's a particular script that you just need to read out, and you don't need to read out in an emotive way or whatever. You just need to read it out. What essentially is happening is the camera is understanding your speech patterns and language processing. It's also understanding your micro expressions, right? It's computing that together so that later you can feed whatever into the script, and Tiger Shroff or whoever the actor is will say it. So the actor may have not read that line or shot that line,
but AI can create that
AI
itself.
can create that.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it has its pros and cons, but done in an interesting way. It can and done in an ethical way. I think
That's gonna be it. That's the first thing that came up to my mind was
Right.
that like how many people are going to use that ethically. Like
Right.
if I was a not a producer like of something, and like we know that not a lot of corporations are ethical.
Right.
So anyone can create that to create false information, to build a brand
Correct.
by using someone's name or
Correct.
identity and all. So
Correct.
it's very easy for them to do that.
Correct. So I think today, there's just mainly one player in the market who's driving this piece of technology, which is patented. So they're
Who?
being, in terms of just governance, being fairly strict on the way it's being used. But yeah, sure, tomorrow if once it gets democratized and once it becomes a little open, people need to watch out. And it's the same problem, let's say, with deepfakes.
Okay.
Right?
Can you tell the name of the company who has
So
it?
it's called rephrase.
Acha, they only have it,
They
right.
have it.
Okay.
So the deepfakes has the
Deepfake, yeah.
problem that you're talking about,
Okay.
right? Because when the tech came out, and then there were a lot of third-party apps that jumped onto it, right? Face swap, this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone started using it, right? And suddenly I went from being Aditya to Tom Cruise. And,
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
That went crazy on social media
Yeah.
and TikTok and whatnot.
Yeah.
And good fun and games, but then the problem became that people couldn't tell what was fake and what was real.
Yeah.
And that became a big concern. And then, you know how the internet works, then rumor mill started, and then fake news started spreading, and particularly I think for a generation that's older than us, that it became even worse because they're anyway susceptible to fake
like
news.
WhatsApp messages, like
Exactly. And then that found its way into WhatsApp and
Right,
whatnot, right?
Right.
So I think everything has its flip side, and I think we have to be careful about it. It's actually, but then it's also talking about the flip side, right? You can also use it as a cautionary tale. So recently, when I was on the jury of some awards, I saw this very interesting case study
Okay.
done by Vion News.
I've not heard about.
Okay, so where they wanted to talk about exactly this, right? How easy it is to use deepfake to spread false news, right? So what they did is created a short clip and a montage of different world leaders. So there was Obama, there was the Dalai Lama, so on, Narendra Modi, so on and so forth. Each of them saying certain things which they would never say. Basically, the video went on to say that don't just believe what you see, because there is, we live in a world where seeing is not believing anymore.
But
it's so much more than that.
Yeah, but so that goes against human psychology completely, because so I'm reading this book called Thinking Fast and Slow. The foundation of the book is what you see is all there is.
Right.
So humans are made to think on what they're seeing.
Yeah.
So if they see something, they have to believe it.
Yeah.
And if you're showing them things like this, most of them are going to believe it.
Yeah.
Like 20% of the people like you will
Yeah.
know, okay, like what's bullshit and what's real.
Correct.
But not the basic consumer perspective is not that. So that is going to be a problem.
It definitely, and I see it already happening, right? I mean, just so now with deepfake and things like that, it's become more so. But
yeah.
even earlier, photo manipulation used to do crazy things.
But
right?
you could, I think, figure it out.
You could figure, yeah. But like, it's that standard thing of every time the monsoons, and now the monsoons are coming up, you will be like, oh, there are waves over the ceiling.
Yeah.
All those kind of videos start circulating. So,
Maybe.
but I understand. No,
have
I think.
you used Chat GPT to create a campaign?
So not yet, but I've seen some interesting applications.
Okay.
It's still, I think, fairly early days.
Yeah.
So the one that I saw recently that I thought was pretty clever was something that MTV did. So they created something called Bot Hard.
Okay.
So basically, it's a bot that does rap.
Right.
Okay, and the rap is created via Chat GPT, and then they just add a music layer to the lyrics that Chat GPT throws out at you.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's not great rap, but it's interesting. Like
Yeah,
it's a good start to what can actually happen. And so they created this simulation of this bot that actually, comes and performs and stuff like that. They had the bot show up during MTV Hustle. They built this interesting thing where you could, opened it up to UGC through social, where you could give it prompts.
Okay.
And then it would customize a rap for you. Then you could share that. It started taking on other rappers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that whole culture.
But it's going to become like that.
Yeah.
So in the rap world, I don't know if you've known this, but Drake created a song.
Right.
AI kind of replicated that song, and that was a better version of the song.
Yeah.
So because of that, all these artists and even Drake called out AI and all and said that this is messed up because like what will we do? What will the artists do if AI can create something in less than an hour? These guys are like spending months and months on creating an album, right? So how is this going to help us? Because it's not creative.
Right.
It's just copied.
Yeah.
So that's again a very controversial take on Chat GPT or AI maybe.
Absolutely, in AI in general, because a lot of similar to what you're saying, a lot of graphic artists and just artists of different mediums are suing Midjourney.
Okay.
Because they are like, see, so the way Midjourney works is it collects data points from the internet, right? Who has the copyright on that? On what basis are they using that?
Exactly.
Right? So there's a lot, I think, legally speaking, I think there's a lot that AI needs to navigate, figure. We ourselves need to understand the implications.
Yeah.
of.
So I mean, everyone's getting excited about like
Yeah.
we need to. There are like courses now to learn Chat GPT and all.
Right.
But there's a flip side to it, and so Elon Musk kind of started OpenAI with the founder. I forgot his name, Sam. So he started the company along with him in 2015. He quit in 2018. Him, Steve Wozniak, and all these tech founders in Silicon Valley, along with New York Times journalists and all these politicians in US, they kind of created a petition to kind of ban OpenAI or limit the use of it,
Right.
which is like kind of bringing down AI to a certain limited extent because they think that the human race will get like very affected by it, not only in terms of mind, but if let's say something goes wrong with creating an AI tool from the producer's perspective, then I think a lot can be messed up. It will be messed up.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and jobs is one thing that we wanted to speak about.
Of course.
So
Yeah, go on.
like jobs, I mean, AI can take jobs and can create better jobs. So like there's a very thin line between that. Can you explain that line? And what do you think in the marketing world, what's it going to be like?
I think I'll add a third thing also, which is can take, can add, but third for me and the way I see it, can make better.
Okay.
And I think what particularly I am seeing right now in certain applications that are coming up. So, for example, focus on detail and craft could get better.
Yeah.
So, just yesterday I was watching this video of a guy who had created a visual on AI art, it took him 17 hours, and he explained the workflow. Okay.
Every minute.
Not every minute, but hour to hour, basically what were updating in terms of what he did.
Okay.
Very interesting. Because so basically what he's done is he is a guy who has a digital avatar of himself that he has created, and he puts that digital avatar, which is a real life authentic digital avatar, into interesting situations. So he wanted to create a scene where his digital avatar is fighting Muhammad Ali. Okay, and they're both in the ring, and it's quite interesting in terms of So obviously he's created the avatar, so he put that in. He fed Mid-Journey with the prompts in terms of what he needed. But then after that, the craft came into because while the AI was good at coming up with a broader vision for it, the finesse was still a little off.
Okay.
Right?
So you could make out.
You
that
could
if-
make out
yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
in terms of that this
Real
is
or
not the
fake.
authentic form
Yeah.
of Muhammad Ali, or it's not the. And that's where he got into it, right? Because he's an artist. So he, down to the skin tone, down to every muscle,
Right.
down to if Muhammad Ali was going to punch in this angle, what would it look like? His
Okay,
facial
so the
features,
entire graphics.
the
he kind
entire
of detailed
exactly
it.
in terms of that detailing. And I feel like the reason he could get into that because was the first draft was already done for him, so he could really get into the stuff that matters in terms of quality, right?
Right.
And I feel like today a lot of us are just chasing that first draft so much now. We're not able to get to draft 2, 3, even draft 54, which we ideally all should get to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like if that the opportunity cost of it opening up a lot of time, if we use that in interesting ways, I just feel like the output is going to be phenomenal.
So this is one thing where you said that it's going to create better, like it's
Right.
quality jobs, right?
Absolutely.
So what about the other two? You have a opinion on that, if it can take or no?
So I think so in general, I agree that with most people out there that any task that involves a lot of repetition, and if you as a person engage in that kind of a job, and it's in any industry, I would now is the time to rethink that
Yeah,
job because
yeah.
that's a bit dangerous.
Okay.
I definitely there's the countdown has begun for those kinds of jobs. For our industry, creativity is something that is so difficult to map. Which is why I maintain that we're safe. I agree with you that on the execution front, we may need lesser people.
Yeah.
Thinkers will just need so I like because you said that which was quite interesting in terms of if you had a crew of 15 people, maybe you can do it in 8.
Yeah.
And that may be true
Yeah.
in terms of executors. But in terms of ideators, thinkers, writers,
So that is again, see, the more people you have, the more perspectives you have, and the more
Right.
interesting things can become.
right.
Right. So that's always going to be a plus where you'll
Yeah.
need people. Where the more people come, the better it is for in terms of thinking something.
Absolutely.
Right. But I mean, a company's not going to hire people just to think. Right. They hire people to execute.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing that I'm focused on. Like if you have a tool or if anything can be done,
Right.
how many companies are actually going to hire people?
So I feel like again, and this is where talent has to get creative. Going back to the the example that I was giving of that guy who did the 17-hour
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
If you get creative with the way you use AI, you'll still be in demand.
So okay. So what if now, sorry to cut you, but
yeah.
everyone knows that you need to either learn AI or you'll get replaced by
Right,
AI. So
right.
everyone is learning AI.
Mm.
Now there will obviously be people who are very good with it, not very good with it, and then people who don't learn at
Right.
all. So they are going to be replaced first. Coming to the people who are very good with it, they are going to be hired first.
Mm.
And coming to the people who are not very good with it, what do these guys do?
Who are not very good with it?
Yeah.
I think you'll have to find a way to own your own craft in a way that makes that its trademark, right? Like today, there are even in forget about AI, but just generally, there's a lot of people, maybe a niche amount of people who are we're non-digital creatives, and that's our trademark, that we are a little old school in the way we do things, and we're more paper and pencil, and because of that we are who we are. Even it's like going to film, right? A lot of the big directors don't shoot on digital.
Yeah.
They shoot on film.
Yeah.
They're that's who that's who we are. And I mean, a Scorsese is a Scorsese, you know. I mean, nobody cares whether he shoots on digital or not.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to come down to a little bit of that. That if your craft is at that level where with existing technology you are still able to do ingenious things, maybe you survive. You know.
So your brain needs to be at a high computing power in order to be excel at something if it's not an AI.
And an exceptional output from that that whatever you're doing. So I think today, you know, we truly live, unfortunately, in an age of mediocrity. You know, there's I think that's going to change.
Okay, why do you say like that? Mediocrity?
Because I feel like we can get away with a lot. Right, in terms of
yeah, like let's say if we've created a campaign that's not so good,
right?
You know, like people won't like remember that,
right?
You know, like you didn't get away with it, like you rightly said. But if you create a campaign that's like even much better than that or even slightly better and people like it, you're going to be remembered forever.
Absolutely,
it's like that. So, and I think companies have gone away, like, you know, like they have gotten away with mediocre campaigns or like even bad campaigns where people don't remember that anymore, but they would remember the one campaign that was good.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
You think that, right?
Very true, very true. And the fact that, I mean, and not just our parents, but you know, even us, like we remember some of the ads we grew up with, right? Like from the 90s and 2000s and stuff like that. And if they have that kind of staying power, this shows you that, you know, the people at that time were drinking some other water. You know, they were doing something that was and without, you know, the trappings of frequency. And I'll ensure today we have, you know, talking about data, we have so much data. No, we know that, okay, this person watched the video only till 15 seconds. So then I will target him again and I'll do this. And they didn't have any of that. They just made stories that were beautiful and you remember that and gravitated towards
them. But
you
know, in the current generation, like you said, there will be ads that will always stick with me. One will be the Zomato ad, one will be the Cred ad.
Sure.
So even if Cred comes out with a very bad ad tomorrow, I'm not gonna like remember that eventually in life. But I'd always remember the Rahul Dravid ad that's like, you know, saying shit and all. So that's one thing that you said rightly. What is Schbang doing with AI?
So I think definitely we're poking around with what we can do with GPT. We're on the AI art bandwagon. In fact, if you go check out our page more recently, we've also started creating work for clients with AI art in interesting ways. So, you know, I'll maybe just pull up something for you on what we've done recently for Britannia. And it just, I think the reactions that we're also getting from people are so inspiring and nice, because it's also like, oh wow, how did you
come up with
did you go there, you know? So I think that's like, for instance, if you see this.
Wow. Jim Jam Joom.
So the fact that like a Jim Jam biscuit could be, you know, a Ferris wheel.
This? It's the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, Ferris wheel and like that thing, you know. So it just opens up that the thinking a little bit, because, you know, we are also all, I think one thing that AI is doing, which is so nice, is it's taking off the layers. We're so trapped into seeing advertising in a certain kind of way. And with certain kind of guardrails, like for instance, you know, that the pack has to be so much size, the logo has to be this size, the lighting has to be XYZ. If you're showing the product, it needs to be blah blah blah. AI, like the beauty of AI where it is right now is that the machine learning is at a very early stage, right? The beauty of a person who is at an early stage of learning is their creativity is unbridled. Right?
True.
And the same with a human being also, right? I love sitting down with people who join our company from the first year and second year, because they don't know the rules. And sure, most people tend to look down and be like, oh, isko kuch nahi aata. But the beauty of that, anyone who doesn't know the rules doesn't know the box they're living in. And because they don't know the box they're living in, they don't think out of the box, they think out of this world only.
That's why I think the world calls them rebels, you know?
and that's the exciting
That's
part.
good. Yeah,
That's
that's
good.
good.
That's good.
So I think that's exciting what Shebang is doing. Like what you showed me.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it to the people, the mass audience, whatever, so
Yeah.
that they come to know, and it's pretty exciting.
It's pretty exciting, and even in our shooting process, the things that we can do, like for example, and not taking from the world of entertainment in general, right? So a big trend that you may have read about even in entertainment is the use of Unreal.
Okay.
So Unreal basically is an engine that's actually taken from the way video game virtual worlds are created.
Okay.
And that's being brought into filmmaking now in very interesting ways. So for most of the crazy VFX films that we see, like
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, Marvel, Avengers kind of thing, are done on green screen. Right?
Yeah.
So that's how we know it, right?
Yeah.
Even the layperson knows this, that they'll be shot in a big studio, there'll be big walls of green screen behind them.
Right.
And then the actors, and it's then superimposed on that. The challenge with that is the actors have to imagine something that doesn't exist. They are in a room with just green, and they have to
Yeah.
imagine that they are in an intergalactic
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot. Today, the Mandalorian actually did this in a very interesting way. The last season of this House of Dragon has also done this now, where they've started creating LED walls.
Okay.
Okay, and the LED walls. So basically, it's still a huge set, and it's a ginormous set and very, very tall. Where behind the actor, they put massive 360 LED walls, which has the world that
The actor, like he
he's
needs
supposed to be in. So
Oh.
instead of green screen, the actor can actually see finally in that scene. If they were supposed to be on a mountain, they are seeing those mountains.
Wow.
They're seeing that. So that improves performance. It improves.
I think emotions are at a height
Emotions,
where that brings
so
out.
many things, and even at a craft level, things like lighting, because what happens with green screen is also there's a little bit of that lighting reflection
Yeah.
that shows up, stuff like that. So I feel like that's really changing things, and even for from an advertising perspective, the way shoots are done, not necessarily having to go to location,
Yeah, so
not necessarily
like product marketing, when you were saying, so I had an interesting thought about product marketing was that you place a product on, let's say, this table, and
Right.
people are shooting that in a certain way where they think that this is the best fit for that product over here only, right? So I think AI can also change in those minute detailing things also.
Absolutely.
With graphics, with everything in terms of how a product is seen. So that way, I think a lot of jobs are going to go extinct.
Yeah.
Like product marketing won't be needed that much because, like you showed me the gym jam thing, you can just put on a product on something like absurd and make it look like like it's a huge thing, bizarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
But I think, now the thing with that also is maybe there'll come a time where people will be fatigued of that also.
Yeah,
Be
there will be innovations around
Yeah,
that. Like, this is an
absolutely.
invention. So
Correct.
there will be innovations around
Absolutely.
that. But there will be jobs that will be like extinct. So people will
Right.
come up with something innovative to use AI into their product marketing. So I think that will be a very interesting thing to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. So this was a very intellectual and heavy conversation, if I will say. But yeah, thank you for being here. I really appreciate like you talking about everything that a lot of people don't know about all this. So yeah, happy to have you on. So what's next?
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Yashas.
Yes.
Pleasure.